This is really cool. I've enjoyed learning about all of these different research methodologies and techniques. I wanted to point out that Dr. Teporuk presented on the One Button Studio. She actually inspired CISLL's event in the fall, which was One Button Day, where we invited affiliates to come to the One Button Studio in the library and record a 3-minute elevator pitch about themselves and their research, which people can then put up on websites. There's one now on my faculty website. We'll probably hold another one of those events in the fall, so look out for that. And cloud research sounds so cool. I can't wait to dig around and learn more about that. I'm talking today about REDCap, which is a new free software platform that's been made available to the entire NIU community that I think will probably be of use to a lot of you. I should preface by saying Dr. Ogg said she is a novice at cloud research. I am ground level novice at REDCap. Dr. Gladfelter and I are about to start collecting data for a research project using the software. So if you bring me back in 3 or 6 months, I'll be able to give you a lot more detail about the software. But today my goal is to just kind of explain what it does and where to find more information about it. The questions I will answer today are: why am I here? Who should use REDCap? What can REDCap do? How you can learn more? And how you can get started here at NIU. I will not be able to answer questions like, how can I modify multiple fields at once? How do I transfer my project from one REDCap system to another? Blah-de-blah-de-blah. However, these are questions that the internet has answers to because that's how I found these questions. So any question that you have, the answer is out there. Hopefully the university will provide further professional development for students and researchers here on how to use it, but it's all out there. Why am I here? A year and a half ago, Allison and I were awarded an NIH grant to study word learning in children who are blind. It was something that I worked really hard to obtain for many years. I was very excited, and I had like 2 hours of happiness, and then I thought, holy moly, how am I going to manage this project? Because I was envisioning all of the different data that we are going to need to keep tabs on for all of the different participants at different stages in the study. We have data from parents, we have data from kids, we have a Zoom session, we have a Qualtrics survey. They're going to send us documents that we have to keep track of. We have to pay them later. We have to keep track of receipts for who's been paid. And I was like, this is more than like my basic Excel knowledge can handle. Surely there is a solution to this. So I looked around a little bit. I found something called clinical trial management systems. There's a very healthy software universe out there that's all about managing clinical trials. And I was like, yes, this does all the things I need to do. Oh, wait, it costs like way more money than I have or was given by the National Institutes of Health. There's got to be another way. Eventually, and those of you who have heard of REDCap will be thinking, come on, Lindsay, you should have known this. But turns out there's this software called REDCap, which stands for Research Electronic Data Capture. I think the acronym was on the previous screen. Not only does it do everything a researcher like myself needs to do for human subjects research, it's totally free. And I thought, well, shucks, we had the problem solved. But there was a catch. The catch was that they don't give it to individuals, they give it to institutions. So if you are at an institution that has REDCap, as over 7,000 institutions in the world have, you're golden. You just sign in, you get started. NIU didn't have it. So Dr. Gilson from my college and I spent many, many months trying to convince general counsel, and then IT, and then RIPS, and then lots of different entities on campus that this was something that the university needed. And very long story, not that short, as of a couple months ago, it has arrived. So that's why I'm only just now getting started using it myself, and I'll tell you how to get started. I'm showing now a map of the world with little pins everywhere that REDCap is used. It's currently used by, and as of yesterday, 7,725 institutions worldwide. That includes 7 other MAC institutions and 40 universities and research centers in Illinois. There is a red arrow at the top of the screen pointing to redcap.niu.edu, which is where it now lives at Northern Illinois University. Who should use REDCap? About a year ago, I was trying to convince everyone on campus that we should have this, and I wanted to show that it was transdisciplinary, it would be of interest to a lot of people on campus, and I came up with this list, which is by no means exhaustive, that I found publications from anthropology, ecology, educational administration, esports, all the way down to sociology, special education, speech-language pathology, and teacher education, all using REDCap. So even though it was originally funded by the NIH and developed at Vanderbilt University for health-related research, it's now really used by anyone who does research with people. REDCap may be for you if you conduct quantitative or qualitative research with human subjects, collect, store, organize, report, clean, or export data for analysis electronically, maintain communication with participants, for example, survey or session reminders. And a few of the features that REDCap has includes creating form for data entry and surveys, enter data with workflows for managing the project. I do research, as I mentioned earlier, with blind individuals, so I'm torn between not reading directly from my slides and wanting people who may not be able to see to know what's on my slides, so forgive me here. It delivers surveys to participants electronically, allows you to reuse forms for multiple events, export data to common statistical packages, so it exports to R, Stata, SAS, import data from Excel, integrates with APIs, conduct real-time quality rule checks, and post-collection data query resolution, and it leaves a full audit trail. But hundreds, thousands of videos out there on REDCap. I tried to find one that was pretty short, that gives a concise intro to the kinds of things it can do, and I just want to play a couple parts of this one.
By researchers for researchers to collect or capture data. REDCap is used for measure design, data capture, and survey access. REDCap is a flexible data capture and management tool, and it has several capabilities, including to be used for public surveys, generating personalized survey links for specific participants, or manually entering information directly into REDCap. It can also be used to collect data either in person, on a research device, through email, or via text message. It can be used for one-time measures or repeated measures. It can capture qualitative and quantitative data, and it can be used to accommodate experimental, observational, and trial designs. It is also important to know what REDCap is not. REDCap is not designed to manage study documentation. It's not meant to act as a data management plan, although it can support data management planning. REDCap is not a data analysis tool, although it is capable of some basic statistics and reports. And REDCap is also not meant as a long-term repository for your data. That REDCap can accommodate several research designs, everything from experimental, randomized controlled trials, observational, longitudinal. However, it's also important to know that sometimes there are multiple options for a particular design. So for example, in REDCap, there's longitudinal options and repeated measures options. It's important to fully understand and plan out your research project before beginning your REDCap. Key design aspects like trials, groups, or repeated measures need to be specified early in the process and will affect what kind of options you have access to. To create a new project in REDCap, first log into REDCap. From there, click on New Project at the top of the screen. This will bring up a new window. First, enter the project's name. For illustrative purposes, we'll call this one Example. You also need to select the project's purpose. Practice or just for fun, operational support, research, quality improvement, or other. Here we'll select practice or just for fun. There are also a few options under project creation. Most would start with an empty project or blank slate, but REDCap also has templates that you can use. These templates include basic demography, a variety of longitudinal designs, randomized controlled trials, and several versions of a basic survey. You can't break REDCap, so feel free to experiment. If you don't like what you see, you can always delete it and start over again. There are also templates that have examples of REDCap's more advanced features, including their piping or field embedding, which we won't be covering here. But if you're curious, you can use these templates to see how these features are used. For the purposes of this video, we're going to select an empty project. REDCap will automatically take you to the new project setup page and we're ready to start. Some features to note on this page before moving to measure creation. First, REDCap organizes project creation into sequential steps. And if you follow or move through these steps as outlined, you will have a solid data capture tool created by the end of the process. Be aware, though, that the number of steps can vary depending on your study design. REDCap also tracks which steps you've completed and lists this at the top of the page. REDCap also indicates the project status, that is, whether a project is in development or it's in the process of being designed and tested, or whether it's in production, which means it has been tested and is ready to collect data. The transition from development to production occurs at the last step, so here's step 7. Note that it is possible to collect data to test or measure while it is in development. When you move it into production, REDCap will ask you whether you want to keep that data or delete it. It is incredibly important to make sure you test your project thoroughly before you move it into production. Although you can make changes to your project or measures after they're in production, this increases the risk that you could lose data or that you might have missed out on collecting data from participants. So it's much better to have the measures as final as possible before you move it into production and data collection. Some important features under the main project settings. So first, click Enable next to Surveys in this project if you want to collect data either using a public survey link or by emailing survey links to a participant. If you don't click Enable, then you can only enter data directly into REDCap, either by the researcher or by an in-person participant via a computer. Note that there's a question mark next to Surveys in this project. The information we just shared is also provided under that question mark, and tips like this are scattered throughout REDCap. Also note that enabling this feature adds additional steps or instructions. Specifically, it says that you can specify which measures are surveys in the online designer. Click Enable next to longitudinal data if you're going to collect longitudinal data from your participants. Again, note that enabling this feature adds additional steps or instructions. Specifically, it adds an extra step where you need to define your events and designate the instruments for them. Also note that you can modify the project title and purpose at this step. For your own tracking, click I'm done when you're finished with step 1. This concludes our introduction to REDCap video.
How can you learn more? Again, between now and when our next professional development workshop is offered about REDCap, I recommend you go to projectredcap.org. Right there, I am showing all of the videos REDCap itself has created to show you how to use different features of the system. So there are plenty. Also, you can go to YouTube, where a lot of universities and institutes have created their own tutorials and videos on various topics in REDCap. Just one site that I saw that seemed very helpful is REDCap at Yale, which has an extensive FAQ about how to use different REDCap features. But what you really want to know is how can you start using it here at NIU? Well, it is hosted and managed by the Center for Research Computing and Data. That right there is a picture of some amazing supercomputer that NIU has. We are not hosted by the supercomputer, but by the supercomputer people, so we're in good hands. The URL is redcap.niu.edu, and if you go there, you will be told to email CRCD helpdesk at niu.edu, and they should provide you with a login and password, and it's that easy. I don't know what information they're going to ask you before giving you a login and username. If they're going to ask to see IRB approval for your study or anything like that, they may do that. As far as I know, this is it right now. The question was, have I tried participation communication? No. There's I think it's called send out feature in the thing that allows you to communicate. And then there are also external third-party companies that integrate with REDCap to allow you to communicate with people via text message. I think Twilio and Mocio are the two companies that for an added fee, they'll let you directly text with participants. We haven't decided yet if we're going to take advantage of those. The question was, is it only faculty that can get an account or grad students as well? I don't know what their policies are. My guess is if you have a grad student who wants an account, now's the time to ask, because they probably haven't sorted all those things out for themselves yet. I know at some institutions they actually allow external research partners to get accounts as well. So that was something we considered, was trying to get one of our team members on our research teams at Washington University in St. Louis, which has REDCap, and apparently she wasn't integral enough to the project for WashU to give us an account, but it's possible that NIU will do something similar. I turned to Dr. Malecki for advice at various stages in the process, where tell me how to tell them that we need this. She was just sharing, by the way, stories about her collaboration with Penn State using REDCap, and it sounds really cool. Something else that we're excited, like I said, we have all these different data points and documents and video recordings that we're going to be having. It compiles all of that for each subject and allows you to run reports on certain pieces of information or certain groups of participants. And it also will track, we have a consent form for this participant, but we haven't received a payment receipt from them, and so that people on the team will see, we better reach out to this person again and nudge them. You can schedule sessions through it. Again, I don't know how yet, but it can do a lot of things. The question was about the data security. It can be HIPAA compliant. A lot of universities insist, like if you're getting IRB approval through the university, then you have to use REDCap. They won't give IRB approval unless you're using that service. You can't use SurveyMonkey or whatever. So knowing that, I would think that it's probably as secure as the options are out there. The question was, if you're collecting data through Qualtrics, how can you ensure that your data is de-identified or secure, given that Qualtrics is external to REDCap? And the answer was that REDCap processes the information from Qualtrics so that by that time you see it, there's no identifying information in the data you see.
All right, well, thanks to all of our speakers. My job now is to leave you with some other resources that we just didn't have all the time to go through today that CISLL offers. So we do have a bunch of books that are available, different reports. CISLL has its own eye tracking system as well, an iLink 1000 Plus. It's located in the site building. You can go to our website and book time online to use it.
We have in our budget this year money to purchase new resources that we can then lend to affiliates. So if there's something that you want, currently we have some laptops, some software, and you want your voice to be heard, now's the chance. If you scan this QR code, you'll be able to enter. I'd really love it if you could buy, gymnasium equipment.
We've had some requests for more in vivo or more tablets that can be taken to the schools. So I think someone wanted a GoPro. If there are things that you want that you think others could also use, please fill those out.